welcome back to DFC Books.
We have a mission today that is, well, nothing short of colossal. We're diving into a work that challenges even the most devoted reader. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's monumental tragedy, Faust, Parts 1 and 2.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a poem or a play, is it? It's a spiritual, historical, and philosophical epic. It took Goethe nearly 60 years to complete, from his youth right into old age.
It really did.
And for you, the listener, who wants the shortcut to, getting a handle on this masterpiece, our sources today are drawn from Martin Greenberg's celebrated translation.
Which is a great choice, by the way.
It is, yeah. It's known for its ability to capture Goethe's incredibly complex metric schemes and his often surprising rhymes, all while maintaining a modern colloquial idiom. And that choice is vital, I think.
It's completely vital. That accessibility is crucial, especially when you get to Part 2.
Oh, for sure.
Because Part 2, well, it often intimidates readers. The sheer scope and the dense symbolism can be overwhelming. The translator even describes it as having tremendous poetic exuberance and fantasticality.
You have serious philosophical jokes right next to these huge mythological spectacles.
Exactly. So our goal here is to give you a clear map. We want to distill the core narrative, the main characters, and the essential philosophical questions so you can approach this text with, real confidence and understanding.
So we'll track Dr. Faust's journey across two wildly different parts, identifying the major characters and the most crucial events of each stage of his story. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Let's unpack the genesis of this tragedy, because the very nature of the work is contradictory right from the jump.
It is.
If we're calling this a tragedy, what was Goethe's ultimate goal?
That's really where we have to start. Despite the official subtitle, A Tragedy, Goethe himself admitted that he felt unsuited to the tragic mode. He described his own nature as conciliatory.
Which is not exactly what you think of for a tragic writer.
Not at all. It immediately sets up this foundational tension. I mean, the core of classical tragedy usually revolves around a hero's predetermined, inevitable downfall, right? Because of a fatal flaw.
Right.
Goethe seems less interested in that kind of neat resolution and much more interested in the messy, endless process of human struggle.
And the sources highlight that Faust himself is not meant to be a sympathetic figure. This isn't a tragic hero whose heart we're supposed to champion, is it?
No, not in the slightest.
We're explicitly told his behavior is portrayed as actively repugnant.
Not at all sympathetic. The translation notes specifically focus on Faust's final speech in A Cavern in the Forest, which comes after the destruction of Gretchen.
Okay.
He stridently insists multiple times that he had to destroy Marguerite. And the shocking implication here is that there was no visible external necessity for this destruction.
That was just him.
It was just Faust's relentless, self-absorbed quest. His need to continually strive and experience, no matter the human cost. He's sacrificing morality for the sake of experience itself.
It's an interesting strategy, though. Goethe creates a protagonist whose actions are morally offensive, yet we, the readers, are constantly reminded not to get too involved with his emotional journey.
Exactly. The text uses what are called distancing devices to keep us at arm's length from Faust's psychological reality.
Right.
In Part 1 alone, you have 3 of these preliminary metatexts that reflect on the action before it even begins.
So before we even meet Faust properly.
Before we even get there, first you have the dedicatory verses, which set a reflective, almost nostalgic tone. Second, the prelude in the theater.
Which is this meta debate between the manager, the poet, and the clown.
Yes. The manager is worried about profit, the poet about art, and the clown just wants to have fun.
So that structural framework keeps the audience aware that they're watching a constructed theatrical experience. It prevents that deep emotional immersion.
Precisely. And the third one is the prologue in heaven, which introduces the cosmic wager between the Lord and Mephisto.
We'll get to that.
And then, even at the conclusion of Part 1, the final judgment on Gretchen is delivered by a disembodied voice from above. It's not an earned moment of dramatic human resolution. We are being instructed on how to interpret the events, not simply watching them unfold.
It's a huge, sprawling work, so let's properly meet the 3 principal players who drive this engine of action and suffering. And we have to start with the star himself, Faust, the striver and the sinner.
Faust is, well, he's the ultimate restless seeker. He's the archetype of modern, striving man. His defining feature is this violent internal conflict, which he articulates very early on. 2 souls live in me, alas, irreconcilable with one another.
And this isn't just a metaphor for doubt, is it? It's a literal war inside him,
It is a constant war. One soul is just completely earthly.
lusting for the world, as he puts it.
Yes, lusting for the world with all its might, grasping at earthly pleasures and experiences, constantly pulled down to the material. But the other soul is always trying to rise up to the blessed fields where dwell our great forebears.
Oh, he's trapped.
He's trapped between the sacred and the profane, the known and the unknown, and this constant friction defines his entire existence.
And his academic life has completely failed him. He's exhausted philosophy, law, medicine, theology. He's desperate for authentic experience beyond just dusty books.
He wants to penetrate the power that holds the universe together, and he famously cries out to, "Deal no more in words, words, words."
That line is so important. Deal no more in words. It signals his shift, right?
It's the pivot. It's his transition from the contemplative life to the active life. And this desire leads to his ultimate, almost hubristic ambition. He wishes to undergo all that men everywhere undergo. Everything, encompassing everything human in his single person. He wants the full, painful, joyous spectrum of existence, even if he knows it means complete personal and spiritual shipwreck.
He defines himself by his capacity for experience, even if it leads to sin.
Especially if it leads to sin.
And who arrives to facilitate this spectacular self-destruction and experience? Mephistopheles, the spirit of denial.
The great facilitator.
But it's striking that this shipwreck is facilitated by the ultimate agent of denial. So does the text suggest Mephisto genuinely creates the evil, or is he just a catalyst? A catalyst for the destructive elements that are already in Faust's two souls.
Oh, he is unequivocally a catalyst. He's not the terrifying sovereign Satan of, say, the biblical tradition. He's the jester of hell, the one who denies, the one who negates. He serves a function.
A necessary function in a weird way.
A necessary, almost divine function. The Lord permits him to engage Faust because, as the Lord argues in the prologue, man is very quick to slacken in his effort.
So we get lazy.
We get lazy, and we need a devil for our own good to prod and poke and incite him as a devil should. Mephisto serves to prevent the human spirit from falling into complacency and stagnation.
But the introduction of Mephisto is hardly grand, is it? It's actually quite ignominious, which suggests a deep satirical element to Goethe's view of how modern society perceives evil.
It is absolutely satirical. Mephisto first appears in the form of a silly-sounding poodle.
A poodle.
A poodle. He enters Faust's study in this ridiculous, humble form, and this mockery suggests Goethe's profound philosophical bent, that the idea of evil as some mighty cosmic power was perhaps just a way religion bamboozled innocent mankind.
The real evil is something else.
The real evil, as Mephisto himself later notes, is diffuse and ordinary.
And Mephisto's view of humanity is just utter scorn. He compares us to insects.
He does. He says humans use reason only to act more beastly than beasts ever do. His view is deeply pessimistic. He compares mankind to a long-legged grasshopper who leaps upward only to land back in the grass, chirping the same old tune.
He's just bored by us.
He is bored and disgusted by our predictable flaws and our failure to achieve anything truly novel in our depravity.
And that brings us to the third character, Margaret, or Gretchen. She's the one who grounds this whole tragedy in a lower middle-class domestic world. Not the abstract courtly world you might expect from a classical tragedy.
Yes. The tragedy in Faust to Terst is subverted precisely by focusing on a lower middle-class girl with a soul fully equal to tragedy. Her story is the immediate, devastating human cost of Faust's limitless striving.
You feel it with her.
You do. The translator notes that her initial pure love for Faust is only described as darkening the atmosphere with calamitous presentiment. We know from the moment Faust lays eyes on her that his pursuit of experience will end in her destruction.
So let's move directly into the structure of part one, tracking the key scenes and the defining events that lead to that very destruction. And it all begins with that cosmic agreement that sets the stage.
Right. The story properly begins with the foundation of Faust's ultimate destiny, the wager in the prologue in heaven.
So the Lord and Mephisto make a bet over Faust's soul. And the Lord seems pretty confident that Faust, despite his despair and restlessness, will ultimately stay tethered to the good.
He is, and his confidence is based on this idea that human imperfection is inseparable from human endeavor. He declares that striving man is bound to err.
It's part of the deal.
It's part of the package. So Mephisto is granted full license to prod Faust. He's betting that Faust will eventually succumb to stagnation, that moment of perfect, settled satisfaction, and just cease his effort. That is the winning condition.
So for the Lord, error is a byproduct of striving. For Mephisto, it's proof of our worthlessness.
Exactly. For the Lord, it's necessary. For Mephisto, it's the fatal flaw.
Okay, so from this lofty cosmic wager, we descend back to Faust's dusty study. And this is where the spirit of denial first takes shape, leading to our second key event, the poodle's transformation of Faust's study.
Faust returns from his refreshing Easter walk, and he has this poodle in tow. He attempts to translate the Gospel of John's opening line, and he's wrestling with it. Is it in the beginning was the word, or mind, or power?
And he settles on something else entirely.
He finally settles on the crucial philosophical declaration that will define his life. In the beginning was the deed.
The deed. That intellectual commitment to action. That's the pivot point.
That is absolutely the pivot. The moment he prioritizes concrete action and experience over contemplation and language, the poodle, this silly, seemingly harmless pet, begins to swell hugely.
Right.
It eventually transforms behind the stove into Mephistopheles, who is dressed as a traveling student. The manifestation of the devil is tied not to black magic, but to Faust's commitment to reckless action.
And that transformation leads straight into the third crucial event, which is the conditional bargain in Faust's study.
All right.
Faust enters the pack not because he craves gold or simple pleasure, but something much more existential.
He craves experience itself. He rejects the mundane completely. He wants frenzied excitements, gratifications that are painful.
Painful, even.
Painful. This elevates the pack beyond a mere transaction. It's a contract for total existence, pain included. And the pack's condition is the ultimate existential trigger. If Faust ever says to the passing moment, "Linger a while, you are so fair," Mephisto wins his soul.
So it's the moment of stagnation, the moment of rest, that costs him everything. And he agrees to it because he truly believes he will never be satisfied.
He can't imagine it. They both agree that to be always up and doing is man's nature. The difference is that Faust sees this as a path to greatness. Mephisto sees it as a guaranteed path to failure.
And Mephisto immediately tries to test this by taking Faust down the low road to Auerbach's cellar in Leipzig. Our fourth key event, magical deception.
This is primarily a scene of demonstration. It's designed to cheapen Faust's grand desires.
Show him some fun.
Some lowbrow fun. Mephisto shows off his party tricks, providing magical wine and deceiving the rowdy students. It's farcical. Brander is singing the rat song, the wine turns into flames.
Faust is not impressed.
No, Faust remains detached. He craves something deeper, more authentic than parlor magic. It's a deliberate shift in tone, a moment of vulgar comedy that just underscores how little these simple pleasures appeal to the striver.
So next, Faust needs some preparation for his physical journey into the world, which we see in the witch's kitchen. And the key event here is, of course, Faust's rejuvenation.
Faust receives a potion from the witch. It's a necessary physical and psychological transformation for the sensual pursuits that are coming. And during this scene, Mephisto reminds the witch that he is her lord and master, but he offers a telling critique of contemporary thought.
Right.
He notes that the name evil ones no more, evil ones more than ever.
That's a profound statement. So the idea of the devil as a single entity is fading in the modern rational world, but the act of evil has become diffused and normalized across all of humanity.
It speaks to Goethe's belief that the responsibility for evil rests less on a single mighty Satan and more on the collective moral failures of human dogs. And once he's rejuvenated, Faust is ready for his immediate target, Gretchen.
And now we enter the tragic core of Part 1, the destruction of Gretchen. The initial corruption begins in Gretchen's ruined evening, with the key event being the first encounter and temptation.
Faust enters Gretchen's empty, humble room, and he finds the atmosphere heavenly. He's genuinely moved by her simple purity, which acts as a sort of mirror to his own desire for something unspoiled.
But his purity, or his appreciation of it, can't withstand his ambition.
Not for a moment. He leaves a casket of jewels there. It's an act of material corruption that begins her downfall, tempting her into a world of wealth and vanity far beyond her strict provincial constraints.
And in a later scene, back in Gretchen's room, she confronts him on this thematic conflict, his seemingly cavalier attitude toward religion. She questions his Christianity.
And Faust delivers this powerful but ethically very flexible defense of his own spiritual state, which is rooted entirely in feeling. He declares that feeling is all, and that names, forms, and rituals are just noise and smoke.
So he dismisses formal religion.
Completely. He prefers a passionate internal conviction, which, conveniently justifies his lack of conventional morality. He's essentially elevating his own subjective experience above any established moral code.
That downward spiral just accelerates dramatically in Night the Street Outside Gretchen's Door, and it culminates in the tragic key event, Valentine's death.
Gretchen's brother, Valentine, who is a proud soldier, confronts Faust and Mephisto for dishonoring his sister. Mephisto assists Faust in the duel. Valentine dies.
But not before he makes sure his sister is ruined.
With his last breath, he ensures her social ruin by publicly calling her a whore. This cements her shame and isolates her completely from the community, leaving her only with her unbearable guilt. This is the first concrete murder Faust commits as a direct result of his quest.
And the sheer weight of all these sins, the shame, the murder of her brother, and the poisoning of her mother, likely through a sleeping draught meant to facilitate Faust's visit, it all comes crashing down in the cathedral. This is the scene of her spiritual crisis.
Gretchen attends Requiem Mass, but she is tormented by the physical manifestation of her conscience, the evil spirit. The spirit confronts her with the murder of her mother and, crucially, with the stirring, a quickening under her heart.
Her unborn child.
Her unborn child, she just collapses under this unbearable spiritual and physical weight. It's a total breakdown of her sanity and her moral foundation.
Before her final prison scene, though, we have this bizarre and spectacular interlude, Walpurgis Night. And the key event here is really just Mephisto's domain, a night of pure, grotesque chaos and satire.
This journey to the Blocksberg is where the play leans fully into that fantasticality the translator mentioned. It's pure poetic exuberance. We see witches farting, goats stinking, the appearance of Mother Baubo,
An obscene witch from classical mythology.
riding a sow, no less,
Yeah.
and the dancing of Lilith, Adam's first wife, known for her dangerously seductive hair. It is deliberately chaotic, noisy, and highly satirical.
I think we have to pause on the most ridiculous and strangely specific detail that only Goethe could invent. The Proctophantasmist. It's such a strange insertion of contemporary satire.
It is the ultimate serious joke. Goethe invented the Proctophantasmist specifically to mock a rationalist critic of the time, a man named Friedrich Nicolai. Nicolai believed the ghosts he was seeing were caused by poor circulation, so he had leeches applied to his backside.
You can't make this stuff up.
You can't. And so here, the Proctophantasmist is the rationalist complaining that the ghosts are footing it like the rest of us, that they lack standing. It just shows Goethe's mastery in incorporating deeply personal, highly localized literary satire into a mythological romp about the devil.
That surreal chaos is then immediately followed by the somber conclusion of Part 1 in prison, where the key event is Gretchen's final choice and salvation.
Faust enters the prison to free Gretchen, who is incarcerated for infanticide and is now completely delirious. She refuses to flee. She recognizes him, but she's just overwhelmed by the reality of her crimes.
She accepts her guilt.
She rejects the easy escape and accepts her fate. Mephisto tries to drag them away, declaring her judged and damned, but a disembodied voice from above declares she is saved.
And that ending is so critical. It signals that Gretchen's salvation is granted by grace, perhaps because of her penitence, while Faust, the man who caused all her destruction, just escapes judgment and tragedy.
His story continues. Hers ends with divine mercy. That is the ultimate contrast of Part 1.
If you are enjoying this deep dive into the colossal world of Faust, please take a moment to subscribe and comment below. We love receiving your book requests and diving deep into the texts that matter to you.
Now, following Gretchen's fate, we really hit a crucial philosophical wall. We have to somehow reconcile the horror of Faust's crimes, the fact that he left Gretchen to suffer the consequences of his striving, with the seemingly lenient spiritual framework he operates in.
This is where the magnitude of his crimes clashes so violently with the Lord's declaration in the prologue that striving man is only bound to err. Faust's quest led to the destruction of Margaret and multiple murders. Valentine, Gretchen's mother. The source material asks, and it's a great question, what kind of word is err for Faust's crimes, for his many murders?
It's a profound moral contradiction, isn't it? And it's one that Goethe deliberately refuses to resolve conventionally. Faust is portrayed as a horrific sinner, an instrument of destruction, yet he goes unjudged.
He's saved. Not once, but twice.
He is. First escaping the consequences of Part 1, and then again at the start of Part 2 through a Lethean cleansing. He's purified in a mist of forgetfulness, wiping away the memory of his moral failings so he can continue his striving.
And that cleansing, that unearned mercy, it's described in our source as a mockery of justice. It seems to imply that for Goethe, the sheer act of relentless human endeavor, striving, trumps any traditional moral accounting.
It presents that argument with immense force. The poem suggests a profound critique of humanist philosophy or maybe spiritual complacency. I mean, if the greatest sinner who caused such monumental human suffering is continually forgiven simply for trying, then what value does traditional morality hold?
That's a real challenge to the reader.
The tension leaves you questioning the very relationship between human ambition and divine forgiveness. Faust is not saved because he is good, but because he refuses to stop moving.
And that tension is the perfect jumping-off point for part two, which shifts from the intensely personal and moral to the abstract and universal. Eckermann famously observed that Faust begins as a tragedy and ends as an opera. What does that structural and thematic shift imply?
It's a radical departure. Part two is characterized by this overwhelming poetic exuberance, this fantasticality, and those serious jokes. The focus is no longer local and personal, no more domestic tragedies. The stakes are global, historical, mythological, economic.
Faust is looking for bigger things now.
He's seeking abstract power and ideal beauty, not just sensual experience.
And the very world of part two becomes unstable.
Yes. Part two takes place in a world of uncertainty. It's described as ontologically unstable. Everything is reflection, image, and nothing is the thing itself.
So the physical and metaphysical are constantly blurring.
Constantly. Which means the narrative is much less linear and relies heavily on classical allusions and deep symbolism, which is why we really need to focus on the function of each scene.
So we begin part two on the high slopes, where Faust has had his cleansing, and we immediately jump into the world of imperial power and financial recklessness in Act 1.
The scene opens in the imperial palace where the empire is in total chaos. The chancellor is lamenting the lawlessness, judges taking bribes, angry mobs, widespread misrule. The empire is bankrupt. The treasurer reports empty coffers. It's a complete political and financial collapse that sets the stage for Mephisto's intervention.
And this sets the stage for Mephisto's ingenious and ultimately disastrous solution, our key event, the invention of paper money.
Mephisto, disguised as the emperor's advisor, suggests a solution that sounds utterly brilliant on the surface. He proposes the emperor monetize the vast hidden treasures that are believed to be buried in the ground.
His logic being.
The logic is, the ground belongs to the emperor, so he technically already owns the wealth.
But they don't dig up the physical gold and silver first, do they?
No. They skip that step entirely. They immediately issue paper notes declaring, this present note is worth 1,000 crowns. This currency is secured only by the promise of future wealth, backed only by the emperor's signature and Faust's authority as the court astrologer.
It's basically the birth of fiat money, a satire on it.
It's an exercise in pure faith and reckless speculation. And Mephisto justifies it with this wicked pragmatism. He dismisses the rational chancellor, who abhors this sudden shift, by saying paper money is much more convenient.
You like your money hard? There's the broker's booth.
Exactly. The market is immediately flooded with currency, leading to this unsustainable economic euphoria and immediate, reckless spending. Goethe is satirizing economic bubbles and the dangerous nature of wealth based entirely on reflection and belief rather than substance.
This financial recklessness is then immediately celebrated or symbolized in the second scene, a great hall carnival, where the key event is the spectacle of Plutus.
Faust appears as Plutus, the god of wealth, and he's accompanied by the boy charioteer, who symbolizes poetry. The boy charioteer demonstrates the purely illusory nature of this new paper wealth by creating instant, vanishing treasures.
Strings of pearls, golden gods.
And as the crowd grabs them, the pearls turn into beetles, the solid goods dissolve into nothing. It's a deliberate warning that this new abstract wealth is structurally unstable and can just vanish into thin air.
So Faust, having exhausted his quest for imperial power and immediate wealth, now begins a new, highly academic quest in Act 2, the creation and the quest. And we return to his original starting point, his study.
We encounter a high, narrow, vaulted Gothic room Faust's old study, but it's now manned by his former research assistant, Dr. Wagner, and the key character we meet here is Baccalaureus.
The former student who has returned as an aggressive, conceited Bachelor of Arts. And he embodies pure youthful arrogance, doesn't he? He looks at the older generation and dismisses all their work.
He declares they are good as dead when you are over 30. He is the ultimate parody of Enlightenment, arrogance, and self-centered philosophy. He believes he is the sole source of reality, declaring, "There was no world until by me created."
Wow.
He dismisses all old learning as useless baggage. And Mephisto, sitting in Faust's old chair, just observes this hubris with satirical amusement, recognizing that every generation believes it has invented the world anew. It's a sharp critique of intellectual self-satisfaction.
This intellectual hubris is then contrasted with a more analytical, yet equally strange, form of creation in the next key event, homunculus's birth in a laboratory.
Dr. Wagner, now dedicated to a purely rational scientific approach, has succeeded where Faust failed. He has dedicated himself to creating life through synthesis. And the sources confirm this is mocking the cold, analytical approach of modern science, which attempts to understand life by dissecting organisms into lifeless pieces.
And what's the product of this purely rational dissection?
A new life form synthesized inside a glass bottle, homunculus. He is literally the little man, all brain and wanting a body.
He's described as the most charming figure of Part 2.
He is, because despite being a product of sterile analysis, he's full of life and intelligence. He's the product of rationalism, but he immediately recognizes his own limitation. He is pure spirit, pure thought, trapped in glass. He needs to find a way to gain a true physical body in the real world.
And this little spark of intellect then guides the sleeping Faust and Mephisto on their next great journey, the classical Walpurgis Night. The key event here is Faust seeks Helen.
Homunculus uses his intelligence to guide Faust, who is dreaming of the ultimate ideal of beauty, Helen of Troy. Faust is led to Greece, the land of classical myth. This entire sequence is Faust's attempt to seek ideal, perfected beauty.
Mephisto must be out of his element there.
Deeply uncomfortable. In this pagan world of light, mythology, and nudity, he's completely out of his element. He claims that heathendom keeps its gates shut against him.
And this scene is also a profound glimpse into the history of science and mythology, showing how different ancient theories clashed.
Indeed. We see the conflict between two early geological theories. Thales, the Neptunist, who favors gradual change in water as the source of all things, and Anaxagoras, the Vulcanist, who favors fire and violent, catastrophic eruptions.
And Anaxagoras makes a huge mistake.
A colossal blunder. He mistakes a meteor for the moon, demonstrating the fallibility of his theory. Meanwhile, Homunculus, seeking to break his glass and gain physical form, is guided by the gradualist, Thales, toward the sea festival, where he hopes to merge with nature.
We move now to Act 3. Helen and the medieval castle, where the two great eras, classical Greece and Gothic medieval Europe, collide. Helen has returned to Sparta, where Mephisto intercepts her, signaling a major character transformation. Phorkys.
Mephistopheles has assumed the guise of Phorkys, one of the three hideous sisters who share one eye and one tooth. He's a monstrous figure and a master manipulator. Phorkys confronts Helen and her chorus, revealing they are all meant to be sacrificed by Menelaus.
The disguise itself underscores this theme of grotesque distortion in Part 2.
It does, and Phorkys Mephisto, upon merging with one of the Phorkyads, actually gains a second eye and fang. It's a physical, repulsive transformation that shows Mephisto adapting to the classical setting, even if he hates it.
So Mephistophorkys convinces Helen to flee to safety in a remote, hidden medieval castle,
which just so happens to be Faust's newly acquired domain. This leads to the key event of the act. Faust and Helen unite in the courtyard of a castle.
This is the symbolic union of the North Faust, representing Gothic striving and intellect, and the South Helen, representing classical beauty, order, and form. The tension between their worlds is resolved through language.
Their union is characterized by an astonishing exchange of harmonious rhyming verse. Faust, the man who once scorned words, has now learned the language of formal beauty and poetry from Helen. They exchange rhymes naturally, finding mutual delight in the language of form and grace.
This signifies his acquisition of the beauty and restraint he liked in Part 1.
It does, and the fruit of this symbolic union is equally symbolic, leading to the third crucial event of Act 3, Euphorion's birth and death in Arcadia.
Euphorion, the wing-spirited boy.
He represents poetry, the blending of the classical ideal with romantic striving, and the spirit of daring youth. The parents are momentarily joyful, but the child is restless. He embodies an aspiration that cannot be contained by earth or even his parents' love. He constantly leaps and flies higher, refusing to settle, mirroring Faust's own ceaseless movement.
He seems destined for a tragic, Icarus-like fall, symbolizing the inherent danger of pure, unchecked, poetic aspiration.
Exactly. Euphorion, dreaming of war and victory, leaps higher, cased in armor, keen to conquer, embracing a destructive ambition. He crashes to the ground, leaving behind only his dress and veil.
And Helen leaves too.
Helen embraces Faust one last time, fades, and descends to Persephone. Phorkys then steps out of her costume, revealing herself as Mephistopheles. The ideal union failed, but the veil remains, which Mephisto tells Faust to keep as a way to ascend to higher things. The abstract pursuit of beauty ends, leaving Faust with a token of its possibility.
We move into Act 4 and V, the culmination of Faust's striving. Faust is now very old, and he transitions from seeking abstract beauty to grand physical mastery of the world. Our first key event is the land reclamation project.
Faust looks out at the open sea and is profoundly vexed by the tides, which he feels are wasted in vain flux and ferment. He cannot tolerate chaos or natural forces that do not acknowledge his power. His final great project is to force the ocean to acknowledge him its master.
This is monumental engineering, not personal pleasure. This is the fulfillment of his commitment to the deed.
It is the absolute pinnacle of his ceaseless striving. He embarks on a colossal land reclamation project, creating massive dikes that result in new green fields, a second paradise, destined to open up space to millions of free people. This monumental feat is the final, physical manifestation of his relentless ambition.
However, even this colossal ambition is flawed, spoiled by the smallest, most human element. This leads to the chilling key event that opens Act V, the crime against the old couple, Baucis and Philemon.
Faust's grand utopian design is spoiled by one small symbolic thing: the humble cottage, linden grove, and church belonging to the old couple, Baucis and Philemon. They represent piety, tradition, and a stable small life, an ideal that Faust, in his global ambition, cannot tolerate or possess.
He can't stand for a single detail of the old world to spoil his vision of the new, so Faust orders Mephisto to move them.
He orders them moved, but Mephisto, ever the agent of denial and destruction, and his three mighty men Bully Boy, Grab Quick and Hold Fast, carry out the order with horrifying efficiency. They destroy the cottage and murder the old couple, burning their home and them within it.
The irony is brutal. Faust has committed his final morally repugnant act of self-absorption, destroying the only stable moral center in his immediate world.
The watchman Lynceus reports the catastrophe from his tower. This is the ultimate moral low point. And this action invites its immediate retribution, not from God, but from the spirit of despair itself. In Midnight, the key event is Faust is blinded.
Faust is visited by the specter of Care, or Sorge, one of the four gray women.
Need, guilt, want, and care. And Care argues that the world is pointless and futile, infecting Faust with doubt and fear.
But Faust refuses to be defeated.
He refuses to be tangled in a net of dreams. He refuses to acknowledge her power, even when she blinds him with her breath. He has lost his physical sight, but not his spiritual vision.
And even blind, he retains his striving nature, delivering his ultimate declaration of faith in action.
Yes, his ultimate creed, his final thought before death. He only earns his freedom, life itself, who daily strives to conquer it anew. He imagines standing with free men on ground that is free, foreseeing his finished work.
This is his supreme moment.
This is his final, supreme moment of foresight and ambition, and it is here that he declares to the passing moment, fulfilling the pact's condition, "Linger a while, you are so fair."
He's met the condition, and he dies immediately after, bringing us to the final spectacular scene in Burial Mountain Ravines, with the key event being Faust's salvation.
Mephistopheles is confident. He has fulfilled the terms of the bargain. He summons the demons to seize Faust's soul, the winged Psyche or the little soul. He's anticipating his victory, ready to drag the soul to hell.
But the heavenly host intervenes, scattering roses. And this isn't just a minor inconvenience for the devil, is it?
Not at all. The roses, pelted by the angels, inflict the tortured anguish love inflicts. Mephisto is distracted and emotionally tormented by the playful, captivating allure of the angels. He suffers a painful love-fit rash, and he attributes his failure to a vulgar itch, absurd desire love.
He's completely foiled.
Completely, allowing the angels to steal Faust's soul right past him.
So the ultimate saving grace is not Faust's merit, which is non-existent given his crimes, but divine love, the eternal feminine of Goethe's concluding philosophy.
Precisely. The angels themselves admit the soul is impure and earthy, stained by its life, but they state that only eternal love can the two sever. Faust is welcomed into heaven, joining the boy souls who died in infancy, and who is waiting to teach him. Gretchen, now called the penitent. Her love, forgiveness, and penitence provide the final, unearned catalyst for his ascent.
What an astonishing journey. From academic despair to global endeavor and really moral failure, ultimately saved by grace and the love of the woman he destroyed.
The core contradiction of Faust remains the central takeaway. His crimes were horrific, from personal seduction and murder to the mass destruction of the old couple, yet he achieved salvation because he never stopped striving.
So the text leaves us with a really provocative thought about judgment and morality. Does striving in action, the eternal movement of life, regardless of moral cost, ultimately supersedes traditional justice?
It seems the Lord grants mercy to the stiver, regardless of how badly he errs.
And despite achieving these monumental feats, creating a new land, achieving imperial favor, uniting with the ideal of classical beauty, the single tiny thing Faust could not possess, and which led to his final crime, was that small, peaceful, traditional life symbolized by Baucis and Philemon.
And that is the great lingering question of the piece, isn't it? And perhaps of modern ambition itself. What does the failure to tolerate that tiny obstacle, the need to destroy the small, stable world of piety, say about the nature and the true end of relentless global human ambition?
It suggests that the drive for total mastery inevitably destroys the very peace and stability it claims to be building.
For future generations, yes.
A truly challenging and profound work, requiring nothing less than 60 years of a life to conceive and complete. Thank you for tuning in to DFC Books.